Welcome to Flashpoints. I'm Jeff Pegues, joined as usual by CBS News senior national security analyst Juan Zarate. Thanks for being with us. Let's talk about this major cyber attack against OPM, the Office of Personnel Management. 4 million government workers, personnel information stolen, compromised, whatever you want to call it. U.S. officials suspect the Chinese are behind this. What are they after?
Well, the Chinese, we know, have been attacking U.S. systems for a long time, not just government systems, but private sector systems as well, trying to compile as much data as possible. In the most benign sense, they've been engaged in cyber economic espionage, trying to get at research and development, trying to get at plans and information that would give them a competitive edge, for example, in the solar panel industry.
Wait, so this isn't about stealing Social Security numbers to use later to buy electronics?
No, the problem here, Jeff, is there's a full range of possibilities as to how they could use the data. And so the most benign is, look, they're just stealing things because they want an industrial head start based on information that's in the hands of U.S. industry or Western companies. On the far end of that, the most nefarious dimension is they're actually trying to get information that gives them insights and windows into U.S. vulnerabilities. And those vulnerabilities are full-scale systemic vulnerabilities in terms of U.S. defense systems, as well as individual vulnerabilities, knowing who has security clearances, where their family members are, their health information. And so the problem with what we have with China is this is a giant sucking sound of data pull via the internet, where they're getting into various systems and using that information in a variety of ways. And I think the danger here is we're not quite sure what they're going to use it for. But when you have millions of records taken, some of it very sensitive, with not just Social Security information, but with people's information about their relatives overseas, Chinese Americans who have Chinese family members overseas, that gets very dangerous and potentially intimidating and problematic from a national security perspective. So this is really a wake-up call.
So what you're saying is this is the kind of information they could use against these government employees for espionage, perhaps? Espionage,
extortion, they use it to create schemes around individuals, to pressure them to help, or simply to understand where the vulnerabilities are in the U.S. system. I mean, the reality is the Chinese government, though they deny it, have been engaged in official hacking and the parastatal hacking, using non-state hackers and individuals to get into systems and to exfiltrate data. I mean, we've known this. The Director of National Intelligence has been talking about this more openly in recent years. It's only after the Snowden revelations that we haven't talked as much about it, but this OPM hack has really brought this story back to the front pages because the Chinese have been at this and been at this for years.
So then how does the U.S. respond to a cyber attack like this?
Well, this is difficult. First and foremost, you have to make sure you're hardening your systems and you have the right firewalls.
But they've been doing that, right?
They've been doing that.
But yet it's still happening.
And you're absolutely right, Jeff. The problem here is there's a cyber arms race, and it's cheaper and easier to infiltrate than it is to defend. There's no question about that. So you have to do it, but it's not going to be a fail-safe. With the Chinese, there has to be a massive diplomatic effort here. And I think one of the things you'll see is the U.S. government will begin to use more open and public efforts to not only shame the Chinese, but to demonstrate where the Chinese are doing this. We've had the indictment of 6 PLA, military Chinese officers. That's already happened.
But nobody in custody.
Nobody in custody, but it was a shot across the bow. The president signed in April an executive order to use financial sanctions against not just those who are hacking, but those who are taking advantage economically, these malignant cyber attacks, as it's called in the executive order. Expect that to be used more. That's something I've been calling for some time. And I think you're going to see an increase in both the diplomatic pressure and the political pressure, with some on the Hill just today talking about the use of attacks on the Chinese currency as a way of counteracting. So you know, cooler heads have to prevail here, but the reality is China continues to engage in these activities, and we have to demonstrate that we can bite back and that we're willing to push back, and we're going to have to do that with some degree of attribution to say, look, we know you're doing it, we know who's doing it, and we know that you're either sponsoring it, supporting it, or allowing it to happen, and it has to stop.
But as you've noted, the reality is it is difficult to bring suspects to justice in these cases as well. Yep. For Juan Zarate, I'm Jeff Pegues, and that is Flashpoints.